In this video, I'm going to teach you guys how to play Succession Sage. And so what are we waiting for? Let's get this started. Before we begin, I would like to let you know that I'm challenging myself to play all the classes and make a tutorial video about it in the easiest manner way, so that way you guys can get it started somewhere for PvP as well. And so if you want to see me progress in BDO and would like to support me on this one, please consider giving a like and subscribe. Once you unlock Succession for Sage, you guys can now use Prime, and you guys can use like Succession Primes right here. And the most important one is that you guys will unlock right here called Prime Overdrive. And this is very, very important to know because it says gain overdrive effect during the skills and casting speed of 1% for 10 seconds. And then it can go up to 10 times. And so for example, if we auto just attack, as you guys can see, this will stack as well. And so keep in mind, it will stack all the way up to 10. And then guess what? When we used our teleports as well, it counts as a skill as well. And then it will stack up as well. But then keep in mind that it has to be the first one of that 4 seconds cooldown. And then after that, if you use any kind of ability as well, that overdrive is going to stack up to 10%. And so keep in mind, the more ability you guys use as Succession Sage, the more abilities that you guys can use even faster. And so that's why you see a lot of Succession Sage just, auto tapping like this, just to gain that stack of 10% of casting speed. And then once again, the movement skill that Sage has is called Prime Rift Chain, and this is also broken. And the reason behind that is once you guys use the first ability, and then after he comes out from that ability, he has a super armor for 2 seconds. So for example, it will look something like this. Boom. Once he comes out, look at this. He has that 2 seconds of super armor right there. So what does that mean? What that means is that when you guys come out, you guys can basically use some kind of skill that does not have a forward guard or super armor. And when he uses this ability, for example, F, he can still not get knocked down basically unless they grab him, right? And so that's the reason why he can be very, very strong and overpowered of using that advantage. And so for example, if we do teleport and come out, we're basically immune for 2 seconds. So what we're gonna do is press F, for example, and then give it an attempt for a knockdown, for example. And so that's the trick as Succession Sage is when you guys are using the first rift of the teleport, what you guys want to use is some kind of ability that has no frontal guard on super armor. And then after that, when you guys use it again, then it just becomes super armor, right? And you guys can still spam it. And so that's why it's also really good because Succession Sage cannot basically fall down and always have protection until his stamina runs out. So as a Succession Sage player, stamina is everything. Stamina is his life. Without stamina, he will basically not survive. And so before your stamina runs out, what you guys want to do is try to kill the enemy as soon as possible or just back out, right? And then disengage and get your stamina back. And then when you guys get your stamina back, that's when you guys can re-engage and then do some kind of combos to give damages and so on. I also thought this skill was really OP because this skill is called Reset. And then he basically resets all the abilities. For example, when I use E-buff, for example, when I use Reset, it also resets the E-buff. So for example, when we're doing Solary and doing the 3v3s, what you guys want to do is use the E-buff on the very beginning, just like this, and then fight on the first round, and you guys won. And then guess what? Press number 4 and see what happens. And then you guys get your E-buff again. So on round 2, you guys can E-buff again and give another damage of craziness, right? And so that's the reason why Succession Sage was kind of broken in Solary. Also keep in mind, if you guys read the overdrive, it says once overdrive effect surpasses 10 stacks, Reset's cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds per use. And so what that means is that when we just do auto attack or any abilities and then stack it up to 10 times, just like this, and then look at my cooldown for my reset. It's about 10 minutes, but now it reduced that down to 8 minutes. But now from now on, after 10 stack, when I use my abilities, and then you guys can see basically that is reducing by 3 seconds every time I'm using ability. And so keep that in mind that like you guys can basically get the resets as soon as possible if you guys 10 stack it with the overdrive and then just keep using abilities, then it will going to reduce down the reset by 3 seconds. And so when you guys are waiting in the lobby or something like that, and then let's say that you guys used reset, for example, now we can just basically auto attack and then just keep resetting. And so as you guys can see on the top left, it's basically lighting up. That means the effect is getting used, right? And so every time using ability, it reduces by 3 seconds. And so that's what you guys want to do on your free time. So whenever you guys are waiting until the game starts, right? And this is what you guys want to do, and just keep spamming this all the time. And look at this. It used to be 9 minutes and now it's already 8 minutes. And then if I just keep doing this, it's going to turn into 7 and so on. And so yeah, just keep that in mind that you guys can do something like this and then take advantage of this. And then now look at this, 7 minutes. And so yeah. And if you guys look at the E buff, it's really good too. It has magic AP of 30, critical hit rate of 50%. That's really high. And then critical hit damage of 20%. It also says super armor for 15 seconds during the skill. So keep that in mind. Once you guys use the ability, you guys are basically super armor. And so that's the reason why he has so much protection as Succession Sage and gives so much damage, and use some kind of ability that does not have any forward guard or super armor. And so keep that in mind. Once again, you guys can use Rift Chain on the first one and then press F. That does not have any protection, right? Or you guys can E buff and then get in there for 15 seconds. And then after that, once you guys press F, which does not have any protection, you will still be protected thanks to the E buff. Now let's talk about some little easy combos that you guys can do, and try this one, which is Shift F and then holding F. Boom, and then he uses that 3 ability right there. Try SF and then hold LMB. And then uses that flow beautifully right there. And this is a really nice movement skill for Succession Sage. It only has 8 seconds cooldown, and then if you want to use it, it's just W+RMB. And then if you guys hold W+RMB or just RMB, it uses the flow, which is another one that comes back. So it will look something like this. Boom and boom. So what you guys want to do, if you guys want to go forward twice, this is what you guys can do. So when we do the W+RMB for the forward one, and then remember how it goes back. And so what we want to do is like turn our mouse like this to 180, so that way it goes forward twice. And I'll show you what I mean. So W+RMB, hold RMB, move your mouse, and just like that, we were able to dash twice. Try this combo, which is down LMB and then holding RMB afterwards, and it will look something like this. First one has a forward guard and second one has super armor, so it's very nice skill to use just to give a lot of damage. Take a look at this skill, which is called Illusion Compression, and in order to use this ability is Shift Q. And in order to use also Dimensional Compression after unlocking Magnus, it's also Shift Q. And so, you know, if you use Shift Q, let's see what happens, what ability it uses. Seems like the Magnus skill outruns this skill. And so what you guys want to do is put the hotkey on this one to like number 1 to number 5s. And then in order to use that ability. And so now if you press number 1, it will look something like this. Keep in mind that can be a really good skill when we use our first teleport and then pressing number 1, for example, right? And the reason behind that is this one does not have any frontal guard or super armor. And so this is a nice skill to use after your first teleport or E buffing. Same thing with pressing F, which gives knockdown as well. So it will look something like this. And then you still have 2 seconds of super armor. So what you guys want to do is use your second teleport. And then after that, using some kind of super armor skills, right? So I have made this Excel sheet just for you guys. It's called movement skill, and then repeat. For example, the movement skill for Sage would be using Rift Chain. And so what we're going to do is, for example, we're going to use Rift Chain right here and then use some kind of ability right here. So keep in mind, this is the protected without CC. And then there are some protected skills with CCs, but I'm going to explain that a little bit. But just remember that, let's say you're noob and want to learn Succession Sage right now, and you don't know what some abilities that you guys can use. And so what you guys want to do is use some kind of a Rift Chain first, and then skill, which is all this list right down right here, guys. And so this is what we're going to do. We're going to Rift Chain, and then W+RMB. Practice that. And then Rift Chain, Shift+LMB. Rift Chain, Shift E. Rift Chain, SLMB, and then hold RMB for the combo flow. Rift Chain, Shift Q. Rift Chain, and then hold C onto the enemy, it goes behind them. and then rift chain SC, and so on. And so that was some protected without CCs that we learned, but let's learn some CCs that has also protection. So for example, rift chain, and then Shift+RMB, and then rift chain, and then SE as well, which has a nice combo of CC. And so you'll be like, whoa, oh, there's not much CC for Sage, right? But guess what? Now, if you guys learn this easy difficulty, let's move on to the hard difficulty, which will look something like this. And so now this is what it will look like when we go to the hard difficulty. And then remember the first skill that we get super armor, guys, for 2 seconds? And so this is the skills that we can now practice and learn, is using some kind of ability for hotkey. For this one, remember, for shift Q. So instead of using shift Q, we can't use it because it collabs with another skill. So you have to put that on a hotkey, and then we can press F for knockdowns, RMB for CC, shift F, and then we can also use skill add-ons that has a knockdown for piercing thorn and a torn resolution for stun. And so this is the stuff that you guys can learn and use on your first rift chain. And so for example, this is what it would look like. So on the first one, let's do hotkey, which is like number 1. So first one, when we come out, we have a super armor. So during that super armor time, we want to use some kind of CC that has no protection, right? Because we have super armor for that one. And then after that, when we use the rift chain again, then it's only super armor, right? And so on the second rift chain, while the first rift chain is on cooldown, now we want to use some kind of protected CC, or without protected without CC, using Shift+RMBs, SEs, and all the stuff that we learned previously from easy difficulty. And so that's the stuff that we want to use. Our first teleport skills, try to use something that has no protection skills, that has CC as well, which is highly rewarding. And then on the second one, while the first one of rift chain is on cooldown, that's the stuff that you guys want to use right here, which is either using some kind of protected with CC and then protected without CC. So I would highly recommend using something like this here, and then try to use those protected CC first, because, you know, if you have higher chance to give CC, then you will most likely going to give them CC, right? Instead of using the withouts. And so try to use these two and spam this two as much as you guys can to actually give them a knockdown. And then after that, they get knocked down. That's when you guys do some kind of crazy combos. So here's a tricky one as well for this one, which is SF, because the reason behind that is when we use this ability, the forward guard disappears after using this ability. For example, it will look something like this. And then, you know, at the ending, the forward guard disappears. And so in order to use this one, there's actually a method that we can use for Succession Sage, which is cancel animation. So for example, let's say that we use SF in the very beginning. And then what we want to do is use a first teleport. And then when you come out, it uses the ability for you. So for example, let's charge our SF and then teleport and see what happens. So SF, and then let's move, and then let go. Boom, look at that. And it already charged for you. And so when Sage comes out, it activates those abilities. And it's not just that skill, it can be anything else as well. For example, if you use void gateways as well, this is also another good way to use is, so charge it, which is Shift+RMB, and then move it and go behind them, and then boom, it shoots out, right? And so that's another good way to use those kind of abilities. And so if you guys practice enough, it would look something like this, for example. So teleport, number 1 for hotkey, and then after that Shift+RMB, and then charge it, and then after that teleport, come out, boom, right? And so that's the stuff that you guys need to practice as Succession Sage. Just always keep in mind that whenever your first prime rift chain is up, then that means you guys can use unprotected abilities that has CCs. And so feel free to do so. Guess what time it is? It's time for combos. This is a scenario when we do some kind of movement skills, and then if you actually get them off guard, that's when we need to use our combos that I'm about to teach you guys. And so watch and learn. So once again, let's say that we are using some kind of first CC, and right here we did Shift+RMB and charged it, and then came to the enemy and then blast them out. And then after they get a first floating, what we did was hold C, Shift F, and then hold F for the first knockdown, and then SC right away, SF, and then LMB, and then Shift Q for finishing it off. Let's say that we're fighting with a high evasion class for PvP. What you guys want to do is maybe not using the Spirit Bolt. Instead, we want to use something like this one called Spatula Fissure. And then the reason why we use this is because we get all accuracy rate of plus 18%. And so that's really high accuracy. And so what you guys want to do is, for example, when we do this combo, instead of pressing C, we want to press Shift+LMB, so that way we can gain up to 18%. And then after that, what you guys want to do is the same combo that I taught you guys, and it will look something like this. Personally, I like this combo. For example, let's say that the Rift Chain is available right now in the very beginning. And so when we use it, right, we are going to get super armor no matter what in the very beginning, right? And so what we're going to use now is basically the RMB skill, which is the Ator's Thorn. And the reason behind that is it has a really nice flow to each other. For example, when we do the Rift Chain and then do RMB, and then boom, has a knockback, and then guess what, he has a super armor, and so I will basically not fall unless they get a grab from me. I think that's a nice simple combo that you guys can do, and the reason behind that is because it has a knockback and it has a CC, and RMB is spammable. And so that's the really nice thing, is because RMB is spammable. And so what you guys want to do is maybe using some kind of rift in the very beginning, and then spammable, and then knockback. And then if they get a CC for knockback, what we want to use next is skill enhancements right here. This skill called Piercing Thorn. This one has a knockdown, and so guess what? This is what it would look something like this if you guys do the combo right. Right, and then after that, knockdown. And then do your combos that I taught you previously, right? And then go from there. Hopefully you learned something more about Succession Sage in this video, and if you do so, please consider like and subscribe in my video. Thanks for watching again, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Ciao.